Jada is back at it here to give everyone another franchise ranking video, as last night I was able to see Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And with that in mind, I figured it was time to do a Resident Evil rankings video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank all the 7 live-action Resident Evil movies from my least favorite to my favorite. Kind of surprised I didn't do this already. And of course, this list could change depending on when I watch Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City again. Maybe that would drop a spot. Now, my history with Resident Evil real quick. I started with Resident Evil 2 for PlayStation. Played that, beat that, then played Resident Evil. Played that, beat that, then played Resident Evil Nemesis. Played that, and somehow, someway, I wasn't able to beat that game. As there's a part, and if my memory serves me correctly, I had the strategy guide for the game. I was at a part where I couldn't do anything else. I tried and tried and tried, and I couldn't go past a certain point. I must have missed something. I don't know. Apparently, I didn't try hard enough. And then with future Resident Evil releases, I played some of the games, but literally I would play them for like 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and that would be it. I just didn't have the patience for those type of games anymore. When I was a kid, I had a lot more patience. Now I'm just more of a sports game guy, if I even play games. So that's my history with the series. Now, with this ranking video, this is my opinion of the Resident Evil movies. It may not be your opinion. So if you would, please leave your list in the comments section just so I can see where you're coming from. And if you're a fan of the Resident Evil series, make sure you smash that like button. If you like this ranking video and want to share it with others or share it across all your social media platforms, that's fine. If you're a fan of rankings videos and reviews of different TV shows and reactions to different UFC fights or a whole lot more, make sure you hit that sub button and subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out, and I would appreciate it. And then, of course, I'm going to be talking about these movies. So if you aren't caught up to the point where I am, where I've watched all 7 major live-action Resident Evil movies, then I highly suggest that you don't watch this video any further just to avoid spoilers. So I will be discussing Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. So just so you know. So, spoilers ahead. All right, let's start the list off. The 7th place movie, the worst Resident Evil movie, in my opinion, and probably a lot of other people's, would be Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. This movie just kind of retconned everything else that had happened. And a lot of these movies retcon stuff, but my biggest issue with this movie is, other than the fact that we get too much Alice, like, Alice is a good character, don't get me wrong, she's badass, but we got so much Alice crammed down our throat where I was getting sick of it. But my biggest issue is the end of Resident Evil Retribution. All our major characters are standing at the White House, and we're going to have this big battle at the White House, right? No. This movie, they start with the end of the battle where Alice is alive, and apparently most of the other people are dead, and they don't even tell you what happened to them, like Leon Kennedy and Jill Valentine. They're just dead or gone or whatever. And I was really, really upset with this. Now, this movie does have some cool action sequences. I will give it that. But I just didn't like the whole route this movie went. And all of a sudden they retconned like how the virus started. They made a whole other new backstory. And then they had this big twist, which you could see coming a mile away. And I honestly didn't like this movie at all. I can watch it. I've only watched it twice. I don't know if I could watch it a third time, but I did watch it all the way through the second time. So my history with it is I watched it when I was at the theater, and then I just watched it for a second time a week ago. Or no, it was less than a week ago. It was last Sunday night. So I'm recording this video on Wednesday, which will drop in about an hour. So that was my history with that. Don't like it. That's why Resident Evil, The Final Chapter, is number 7. Number 6, Resident Evil Retribution. Now, there are parts of this movie that I really like. I'm ecstatic that they brought some of the iconic video game characters like Barry Burton, Ada Wong, and Leon Kennedy in this. I don't mind that. They brought Jill Valentine back, although she looks different. But I was a big fan of Jill Valentine in these movies. For the few movies that we got Jill Valentine in, I liked Jill as a character. Luther was back in this, only to get killed off, which I thought was a big mistake. I actually liked Luther's character. And I'm not sure, was Luther a character in the video games? I'm not an expert on Resident Evil by any means. I played the first 3 games, but all the rest of the games after that, like, I don't know. But I'm wondering if Luther was actually a character in the video games or not. leave that in the comment section just so I can, I guess I could Google it myself. But nonetheless, I just think they gave us too much in this movie. I like the whole setting, but they crammed so many characters in this movie. They brought back, Carlos. They brought back Rain, Evil Rain, and Good Rain, which was very confusing. They brought back, was it One, the guy in the first movie that has the lasers go through him, which I liked his character. So there's a lot of characters brought into this movie, of course, with Jill Valentine back, but it just didn't. It was too much, in my opinion. And then Wesker teaming up with Alice didn't make any sense, but of course they retconned that in the last one. So all in all, I could probably watch this movie again. And again, this is another movie I watched it in the theater, and then I just watched it within the last 3 or 4 days. And I've only watched it twice. But Resident Evil Retribution, number 6. Now, the rest of these movies that are on this list, I can tolerate and enjoy most of the movie. So my 5th place Resident Evil movie would be Resident Evil Extinction. Now, this could flip-flop. These next two are kind of ones that could flip-flop. I used to hate Resident Evil Extinction for the fact that they killed off LJ and they killed off Carlos. But watching it again, which I've actually seen this movie now 3 times, I believe, when it came out in the theaters, when I bought it on DVD, and then just watched it, within the last week, I don't mind it as much anymore. Again, we get way too much Alice. We are introduced finally to Claire Redfield, which is awesome. But I feel like her character in this particular movie isn't really all that important. They don't really make her important at all in this particular movie, and that does annoy me. But it's still enjoyable. The setting is pretty cool, and I like some of the things that they did in this movie. I can't hate it anymore. It's not as bad as I remember, but I am a little disappointed that they kill off Carlos and LJ. Of course, Carlos does come back in Retribution, but it's evil Carlos. Well, no, he comes back because her and him have a daughter that's hearing impaired and whatnot. But anyways, Resident Evil Extinction is number 5. Number 4, this is kind of surprising. I'm going to put the original Resident Evil as my 4th favorite movie. I used to love this movie a lot, and I've probably watched this movie, I would say, at least 5 times. Probably more, but I'm 100% sure I've seen the movie 5 solid times. And I really liked the score or soundtrack that's with this movie, especially that Seizure song by Marilyn Manson, the dun 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 dun. I love that theme in the movie. Now, of course, it's another movie where we get way too much Alice, and then guess what? Alice is the only real character that survives, unless you want to count Matt, who, of course, turns into Nemesis, but we don't see that happen. We see the start of that happening, but it's all Alice. Now, I like some of the other characters that were in this movie, and I wish they would have kept them alive, like Kaplan. I liked him. Of course, I already talked about One, but he's the first one that's killed off, or maybe he's the second one. I don't remember exactly which one. But that laser room is pretty cool, and they, of course, bring that back in other movies in the Resident Evil series. But Rain should have lived. It was an interesting connection that her and Alice seemed to have. Like, they had some kind of chemistry, it seemed. And I think they should have kept her alive. Of course they didn't, and it sucked. But they did bring her and Evil and Good Rain in Resident Evil Retribution. But all in all, the movie just didn't seem like it was a Resident Evil movie. I think that was the problem. And you have no video game characters in the movie, which really pisses me off, well, unless you want to count the Red Queen. So Resident Evil, the OG from 2002, is my number 4. Number 3. Sometimes I see people hate this movie. I happen to like it. I think it's one of the best ones in the series, obviously, because it's ranked by number 3. And that would be Resident Evil Afterlife, the 4th installment of this series. I really enjoyed this movie. They brought back Claire again, which is good. Initially, she lost her memory, but then she gains it back. I like the whole setting of it, kind of, well, not the whole movie setting, but the where they're at the one place. Kind of reminded me of the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, which it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's like top 15, I think. And I did like Alice in this movie. I like some of the other characters that didn't have much time. Of course, they bring Chris Redfield in this movie, which is awesome. And then you have the badass Axeman. That was pretty awesome as well in this particular movie. And I think the movie, all in all, ends really well. And I think one of the reasons why this movie gets put over the top for me, you have at the end, they're on that Arcadia thing, that that ship out in the ocean, and all of a sudden Umbrella starts sending all they're going to go to war, and then you have an end credit scene, and you see Jill Valentine in the end credit scene. So she wasn't in Extinction at all, but she is in Afterlife very briefly, and I think that's what made the movie for me, because I was a big Jill Valentine fan, and we'll get to that in a moment here. But all in all, Resident Evil Afterlife, it's entertaining. And another thing with this movie, I also liked the score for it, the Tom and Andy song, which is kind of eerie, and I really enjoyed that, as a matter of fact. So Resident Evil Afterlife is my number 3. Number 2 for me, I don't know where people stand on this yet because it's relatively new, but I'm going to put Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City as number 2. I mean, the movie follows the video game. Obviously, they have a lot of gameplay in one movie and a lot of gameplay in another movie, and they have to cram it together in an hour and 45-minute long movie. I think they do, for the most part, a decent job. If you're a fan of the games, if you're a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, you're going to like this movie. There are some nitpicks about it, but all in all, I like this. Now, the character of Jill in this movie, I didn't necessarily not like, but it wasn't my favorite character of the movie. Now, some people have gripes about Leon in this movie. They make him a clumsy idiot in the movie, but he quickly turns into a badass in the movie. So I actually liked Leon for the most part. I thought Claire was kind of annoying in this, to me, and I thought Chris Redfield was probably the most solid character in this version. I'm just wondering where they're going to go from here, because obviously next I want to see Nemesis. But spoiler alert, all our characters are together at the end of this movie, and Raccoon City is in ruins. At least we think it's in ruins. And I want to see Nemesis. Now, I don't know if Nemesis will be the route that they go in. Maybe they could return to Raccoon City. But it's interesting. Of course, with this movie, there is an end credit scene. Hopefully there's not 2 end credit scenes, because I left after the first one. And we get the real Wesker, which I think his character was okay. He could have been done better, obviously. And I really liked the captain in this movie, played by Donald Logue. I really like his character from Gotham, and I think he did a really good job, and I was a little upset that they killed him off. I mean, you knew it was going to come, because you know our core characters are going to survive this, and they have to kill all the other ones off, but I would have preferred his character to survive, at least until the next movie, assuming that there is a next movie. But all in all, I enjoyed Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. This is one that could fall down the list upon a rewatch of it, because I've only seen it one time. But as it stands right now, it's my second favorite Resident Evil. And by process of elimination, my number 1 favorite Resident Evil movie, and actually the movies on my top 100 favorite movies of all time list, would be Resident Evil Apocalypse, which it should have been called Resident Evil Nemesis, but they didn't want to copy Star Trek Nemesis. So I absolutely love this movie. They finally brought some video. Well, they only had one movie previously, but they brought in Jill Valentine. They brought in Carlos, which I love. They brought in the Ashfords, which is somebody from the game as well. And then, of course, you get the big bad in this movie that turns good, Nemesis. Now, does Nemesis turn good in the game? I don't think he does, but maybe he does. I don't know. But I really, really liked Jill Valentine in this movie. I thought she was awesome. Like, awesome. She had her moments, but then you get too much Alice. If they They should have killed Alice off in this movie, maybe at the end, and it would have been a lot better. But Jill Valentine was awesome. Carlos was done pretty good. He has some cheesy moments, but all in all, pretty fun characters in this movie. And I can't stress enough how much I liked Jill Valentine. She was badass. And then, of course, Mike Epps as LJ in this. He's hilarious. Man, I got my shit custom. Now, I normally drive a Cadillac. Had some great timed comic relief in this to kind of make it a little entertaining. And, yeah, I absolutely love this. And I know some of you are going to disagree, but Resident Evil Apocalypse is my #1 favorite Resident Evil film. So you've heard my list. Like I'd mentioned, I want to hear about your list, so make sure you leave them in the comments section. If you're a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, the movie franchise in general, make sure you smash that like button. If there is anybody that you know that would be interested in this ranking video, or if you like this ranking video so much that, hell, you want to share it across all your social media platforms, please do so. I don't ask you to do that by any means, but if you do, that's awesome. Let me know that you're doing that so I can give you some major props. And of course, last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button as I want to grow the channel. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.